As Republicans complain about social media bias, we've learned that Twitter changed its rules to accommodate Donald Trump and that the Trump White House repeatedly pressured Twitter to remove tweets that they didn't like. Does anyone remember the 2022 election cycle? It was back in November, seems like an eternity ago. But during that election cycle, the Republicans promised, they made a promise to America, a commitment to America, that they would address substantive, kitchen table issues that mattered to everyday Americans, like, the economy and inflation and, China and the opioid epidemic and the southern border and yada, yada, yada. All these things that actually matter to you and me and everyday Americans, left, right, and center. And yet now that they're in the congressional majority, what are they doing? What are they doing with that majority, the power of the gavel? Well, again, they're going after President Biden politically. They're opening investigations into Hunter Biden and social media companies, and that's what we're actually going to talk about now. They're investigating Twitter in particular for censorship, because Republicans feel like they have been unfairly maligned and censored and suppressed by these private companies, right? And again, this is a point to remind you that for decades, the Republican Party, the right wing in this country, has been the party of deregulating and unregulating and unshackling the private sector. Let businesses do what they want, whatever they want. Laissez-faire capitalism, baby. Let the market decide. Hey, if you don't want to bake a cake for a gay couple, you don't have to, right? And it's absolutely oppressive. It's fascistic. It's tyrannical to try to make companies do things that companies don't want to do. Except apparently enforce terms of service against conservatives or anybody who just, I guess, so happen to be conservatives, who are more likely to break those terms of service. Well, then Congress needs to get involved because, come on. This is funny because it's Republicans being hoisted by their own petard. They're learning that, oh crap, oh my God, the private sector can occasionally do things that we don't like. They have been so used to being the dominant market and cultural power that now that they're starting to see the cultural winds shift, now that they're starting to see, at least businesses pay lip service to the notion of a relatively socially progressive movement, they've realized that a free market or deregulated businesses are a two-edged sword, and they can also be cut by it, and they don't like that. So the House Oversight Committee, which is one of the biggest and most powerful, chaired by Jamie Comer of Kentucky, they're using their gavels to open investigations, and again, into Hunter Biden and the Biden family, and also social media. And, of course, as they're complaining about censorship and the suppression, what we learned today is that actually Republicans and the Trump White House and Donald Trump have apparently been trying to pressure Twitter into removing things that they don't like. So it actually, we've learned things that are the exact opposite of what Republicans were suggesting. So I want to play a couple of clips and read a very interesting article which came out during these hearings. So let's start with this one here.
Yeah. Okay. On September 8th, 2019, at 11:11 p.m., Donald Trump heckled two celebrities on Twitter, John Legend and his wife, Chrissy Teigen, and referred to them as the musician John Legend and his filthy-mouthed wife, unquote. Ms. Teigen responded to that email at 12:17 a.m., and according to notes from a conversation with you, Ms. Navaroli's counsel, your counsel, the White House almost immediately thereafter contacted Twitter to demand the tweet be taken down. Is that accurate?
Thank you for the question. In my role, I was not responsible for receiving any sort of request from the government. However, what I was privy to was my supervisors letting us know that we had received something along those lines or something of a request. In that particular instance, I do remember hearing that we had received a request from the White House to make sure that we evaluated this tweet and that they wanted it to come down because it was a derogatory statement directed towards the president.
They wanted it to come down. They made that request.
To my recollection, yes.
I thought that was an inappropriate action by a government official, let alone the White House. But it wasn't Joe Biden about his son's laptop. It was Donald Trump because he didn't like what Chrissy Teigen had to say about him. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
My.
Interesting, especially since, as Representative Connolly here suggests, Joe Biden in 2022 was not only not the president, he was not a member of the federal government at all. So this would be an example, since Donald Trump was the sitting president, the chief executive, the head of state, head of government, the ultimate, right, single office of the government. That would be government pressuring a social media company, but it would be a Republican government doing it. Interesting. Let me play you another clip that kind of was along this theme.
Into it. Ms. Navarrete, let's talk about something real. I'd like to show you a tweet posted by former President Trump about my colleagues and I on July 14, 2019. It says in part, quote, "Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it's done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy as quickly to work out free travel arrangements." A day or two after that, Donald Trump publicly incited, violence at a rally, targeting 4 congresswomen, including myself, saying, "Go back to where you came from." Ms. Navarrete, as I understand it, you were the most senior member of Twitter's content moderation team, or a senior member of Twitter's content moderation team when this was posted. As part of your responsibilities, did you review this tweet?
Yes, it was my team's responsibility to review these tweets.
And what did you conclude?
My team, Ray, made the recommendation that for the first time we find Donald Trump in violation of Twitter's policies and use the public interest interstitial.
For the first time?
Yes.
And at the time, Twitter's policy included a specific example when it came to banned abuse against immigrants, as they specifically included the phrase, "go back to your country," or go back to where you came from, correct?
Yes, that was specifically included in the content moderation guidance as an example.
You brought this up to the Vice President of Trust and Safety, Del Harvey, correct?
I did, yes.
And she overrode your assessment, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And something interesting happened after she overrode your assessment. A day or two later, Twitter seemed to have changed their policies, didn't they?
Yes, that trope, "go back to where you came from," was removed from the content moderation guidance as an example.
So Twitter changed their own policy after the president violated it in order to potentially accommodate his tweet?
Yes.
Thank you. So much for bias against right wing on Twitter.
Yikes. She brought the receipts. So that was an example of Twitter bending over backwards to accommodate Donald Trump, a Republican right-wing president. Okay? So that intersects the right-wing bias, kind of rejects it, and also emphasizes the pressure played again by the government. So those are some examples that came up during the hearing that kind of refute the Republicans' narrative that Twitter was just going out of its way to silence or suppress right-wingers. But while this hearing was going on, Rolling Stone published an article that Twitter kept an entire database of Republican requests to censor posts. And here's what's discussed. But former Trump administration officials and Twitter employees tell Rolling Stone that the White House's Teagan tweet demand, which is the first example we provided, was hardly an isolated incident. The Trump administration and its allied Republicans in Congress routinely asked Twitter to take down posts they objected to, the exact behavior that they're claiming makes President Biden, the Democrats, and Twitter complicit in an anti-free speech conspiracy to muzzle conservatives online. It was strange to me when all these investigations were announced because it was all about the same exact stuff that we had done when Donald Trump was in office. One former top aide to a senior Trump administration official tells Rolling Stone. It was normal. In interviews with former Twitter personnel, one-time Trump administration officials, and other people familiar with the matter, each source recalled what could be described as a hotline, tip line, or large Twitter database of moderation and removal requests that was frequently pinged by the offices of powerful Democrats and Republicans alike. So there you got it, folks. This is not a partisan issue. Republicans and Democrats, left and the right, are not free speech absolutists, no matter what they tell you. And this narrative coming from the Republican Party that Twitter was engaged in some sort of conspiracy with Biden, the Biden campaign, or the Democratic Party writ large is just crap. Donald Trump and the Republicans were in power in 2020, so remember that time frame. So when they were making these requests, you're talking about an actual government pressure on a private company to violate the principle of free speech. Keep that in mind. Republicans on every issue are always worse than Democrats on the very thing they're accusing Democrats of. Every accusation from the Republican Party should be seen as a confession. Keep that in mind and point that out to people who want to claim that Republicans are victims of censorship. Hey you! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, and I hope that you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you absolutely hated the video, the best revenge for you is also to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. That'll teach me. If you want to share an opinion or share some feedback, go ahead and leave a comment, all right? 2023 is a year of change, hence the aggressive rebrand and commitment to new content. Inspired by my friends Luke Beasley and STV Philly, my personal goal for this channel is to hit 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping you'll do me a solid by spreading the word and the videos to potential fans and hate watchers alike. And in the meantime, we'll be pondering politics again with you very soon.